All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. The number here is 412-575-2600 on the Borders and Borders hotline. But if you want to call the #1 contractor in Pittsburgh, Ireland Contracting, and you can contact them, easy to remember, 1-800-NEW-ROOF. Gene, they do everything. They specialize in roofs, but they do everything. They do siding, gutters, windows, dog grooming. I wonder if they do electrical work. I need an electrician.
One,
yeah, I do. So maybe I should call them.
Why not?
1-800-NEW-ROOF.
The least they can do.
We'll try to find out to see if they have any electricians there. I'd imagine if they're a contractor, they got to have electricians on board. We'll find out, though. Make sure you call them. Call us right now. All right, we're going to go out to the phone lines. We're going to go out to David in Finleyville. How you doing, David? What's up?
Hi, Rich. Thanks for taking my call. I want yours and Gene's opinion. Realistically, this year you've seen the Steelers game. Do you have any confidence of them making the playoffs this year? I'll hang up and listen to you.
Gene, you know what? That's actually a tough question right now. I don't know. I think I've seen them turn it around, things before. You know, it's only 4 games.
Yeah.
You know, if they win the next 2, all of a sudden it's 3-2-1, and depending on where they get in the division, I guess you got to concern yourself with Baltimore and Cincinnati and what they do. And it looks like Baltimore has an easy schedule. That's what worries me about them potentially getting in, because now I think they're at a point where they have to win the division. I don't know a 1-2-1 start will get you a wild card.
Yeah, I don't know if I would ever count somebody out, you know, after 4 games. But the Steelers are awfully close to a point where something's got to change for them. So I'll give you that. Am I confident they'll be in the playoffs? I still kind of am, because I don't really have a lot of faith in these other teams. And that was one of my impressions from Sunday night. Richie, I don't know about you, but I didn't think Baltimore was very good either.
I don't either.
I thought they were 2 very mediocre teams. And, you know, Cincinnati got a big win. And Dalton has had a nice year so far, but I have no faith in the Bengals. I still think, just on a player-for-player basis, the Steelers have the most talent in the division, and they should make the playoffs.
Then what's the problem? I mean,
it's not playing well.
Do you think some of this drama is affecting them?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. You know, had Bell come in, I think things would be a lot different.
I have to agree with you on that one. All right, let's go out to the Bernie out in Plum. What's up, Bernie?
Hey, Richie, how you doing?
Good, thanks for calling.
I got a comment I'd like to have your opinion on. I watched the Steeler game on the NFL Network last night, and with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter till 12 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, Baltimore had the ball, and then after that they had a 7-minute drive. Now, they had the ball for 13 out of the last 16 minutes.
Yeah.
That's kind of ridiculous. How can the offense put points on the board, number one? And number 2 is people are saying, well, James Conner is no Le'Veon Bell. And that's true, but if you remember Le'Veon Bell's rookie year, he wasn't Le'Veon Bell either. And that's all I really have to say, and I'd like to hear your opinion on it.
Well, not to correct you, but this is James Conner's second year. But this is his first time being a starter. And I guess that is the issue. See, the Steelers' defense didn't give up a touchdown in the second half, but they gave up a lot of long drives that ate up a lot of clock, and then the Steelers' offense went basically 3 and out, you know, essentially.
Right. The Steelers' time of possession for the whole game was just over 24 minutes. That's the lowest such figure I've seen in a long time. I didn't go back and research it, but that's an excellent point. The key penalty, there's a key penalty that started that second drive when Jordan Berry got off the good punt that pinned Baltimore at the 8. On the first down play, it was a 2 or 3 yard running play, but Stephon Tuitt had his hand in somebody's face. That created another first down, and that launched a 14-play drive there. That was a big part of the game, so that's a good observation on your part.
Yeah, you can't, even though you're not giving up a lot of points, you can't let them keep getting first downs and converting third downs. That was the other problem. I mean, you look at the third down conversion rate between the 2 teams, and it's basically flip-flopped. I mean, it's the exact opposite. The Steelers
Baltimore was 8 for 17, and the Steelers were 2 for 12.
2 for 12. So, all right, back out to the phone lines. We're going to go out to Farmer out in Katanning. How you doing, Farmer?
Hello.
Hey, thanks for calling.
Thanks for taking the call. I want to call about a punter. When are the Steelers going to use some of that money from Bill and buy a punter? The punter is killing us. I have punters in high school kick better than he's been kicking.
Hey, Farmer, I appreciate the call. I know they had some tryouts here, but I don't think you're going to need a lot of money to get a punter, right, Gene?
No, I don't think that plays into it. But again, Mike Tomlin on Tuesday, endorsed what Jordan Berry has done recently, which I thought was a little surprising. He did get a great punt, which I alluded to, but his other punts were not very good, and some of them were to, what they call the big field. He had plenty of room, to drive the Ravens back, and he did not.
And Gene, field position has been a major problem for the Steelers.
It has.
And he's been part of the problem. He's either very good or very bad. It doesn't seem like there's any in the middle with this guy.
A couple of great punts and then a lot of bad punts. And special teams has been terrible. They've been probably, I'm not certain of this, but they might be the most penalized of the three phases. They've had a lot of penalties and a lot of first period penalties and a lot of first play of the game or first play of the possession penalties. So.
And a lot of, I guess, dumb penalties where you're doing stupid things. So they're still the most penalized team in the NFL, correct? Mm-hmm. So that doesn't win you games either. All right, we're going to go out to the phone lines before we go out to, who do we got here? John from the north side? John from the north side, what's up?
Positions that make mistakes.
Hey, John, go ahead. John, you're on. John.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering why. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
okay.
We're here.
I had a question. Why don't the Steelers use Josh Dobbs and how Lamar Jackson was used with Baltimore?
John, I don't think he's that kind of player. He's not a Lamar Jackson. They're using Ben Roethlisberger because he's one of the best quarterbacks, or we think he was and is supposed to be their franchise quarterback. I don't think they're thinking about Josh Dobbs or Mason Rudolph right now.
No, I don't think they regard Josh Dobbs as in the way that the Ravens regard Alexander. But, if Ben doesn't improve, you might see him in some kind of, very limited role. I don't think we're at that point yet. Ben's had, 3 good games and 1 bad game. Well, his first game he had some turnovers, but he's played very well and he's played not so well. His quarterback rating is the 3rd best in the division, so that's going to have to improve. I don't know if we're near the point where they're going to take a look at Dobbs, though.
What would it take?
Well, it'll take another 2 or 3 games like this one.
Where I don't even think that. He could just be terrible for 10 games, and they still wouldn't start Dobbs.
Oh, maybe you're right.
I'm just guessing. I have no idea, but I think it would take a lot.
I'm not talking about starting Dobbs.
Or playing him.
Playing him,
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe 2 or 3 more horrible games, but Ben said today that he's going to turn things around. All right, we're going to take a break. Back with more of your phone calls, some of your tweets, 412-575-2600 on the Bordas and Bordas hotline. Back in a couple minutes.